All of this can be completely avoided through consultations held online or by phone. In such a situation, the helper can feel 100% safe. Regulation setting boundaries. Easily regulate video sessions. Surely, dear psychologists, therapists, conference attendees, you also have many experiences where, despite the 50-minute time frame being defined, the client does not want to leave. They just sit and keep talking. It is more difficult to conclude this process during a personal meeting than online. The most important aspect of summarizing is the therapist's disposition. What matters most to their sense of comfort is whether it's an online or offline environment, and then they should do what makes them feel best. Let's look at the advantages of online consultation from the client's perspective. Incognito. It is incredibly difficult to muster the courage to approach a professional with a sexual problem. Many prefer to suffer alone for decades due to feelings of shame. However, once they learn that it is possible to do so incognito, they are more willing to sign up. In such cases, the majority sign up by phone, or we consult online without a camera. I never see them and they don't see me either. Of course, I can see their names during a transfer, but they can also handle this under another name if they really want to. Obviously, during the mask-wearing period, it's easier to maintain anonymity in person, especially if the mask is complemented with sunglasses and a hat. Who else is online recommended for? For clients with attention disorders who have concentration issues. Online, we can set up the background. Many people think it's good if the office is low in stimuli. I must add, I personally don't agree with this, but connecting to this general belief, and online consultation is certainly low in stimuli. After all, the client only sees a wall, a cabinet, or a screen behind us, and their attention doesn't wander around the furniture, equipment, or objects in the reception room. Due to this lack of stimuli, they can focus more easily. For clients who care a lot about their image, online consultation is also better, because while we talk, if the camera is on, they can see themselves. So they continuously receive feedback on how they look or how they are gesturing. For clients with inhibitions, online consultation is particularly recommended because it allows them to experience their inhibitions more freely. I put this sequence together interestingly. The client can be themselves. If the client doesn't want to look at the therapist, they can more easily avoid eye contact this way. This is common, by the way, with shy individuals. Everyone will encounter an inhibited person, someone who easily gets embarrassed. On the phone, this isn't an issue. It doesn't matter where one looks. This is related to the multitude of people unable to relax, for whom online consultation is particularly recommended, because this way they can relax much more easily. On the phone, we are even more human. The client may also have a desire to meet expectations with a therapist, which can hinder their honest expression until they relax, which can actually happen even during the first session. But let's assume they don't even need time. They relax faster in everything. If they don't have to worry about their own reactions, they don't have to control them. And the client is not scrutinizing the therapist's reactions in the meantime. How the therapist reacts when they say something. This is especially important for us sexologists because we hear particularly serious secrets, things that people are ashamed of in front of themselves and their partners. So it cannot be easy to talk about these things in front of a stranger, a sexologist. So it significantly helps their situation if this connection is established via camera or phone with the therapist. It's also good for those with social phobias. In certain types of social phobia, Skype or phone consultations are recommended. This way, the client doesn't have the minor anxiety of, oh, now I have to go into a house, an office. Do I have to take off my shoes or not? Will I get water or not? Do I have to go to the bathroom? What will the bathroom be like? These things can cause anxiety for clients. There are people who cannot urinate in unfamiliar places, but if they have to, it bothers them that sounds filter through. If they want to prevent this, they don't drink. But if they don't drink, they become thirsty and feel uncomfortable because of it, or they become dehydrated and their voice goes away. So such factors can be filtered out with online counseling. It is also recommended for sexless couples or those with a lack of libido. For couples, the advantage of a video session is that they have to sit very close to each other. Otherwise, they won't fit into the frame. And just the fact that they sit close to each other can help rekindle intimacy, which is a common issue for them, or even rekindle sexual desire. Research has shown that if we sit next to someone, we are more likely to feel sexual desire towards them. Just as an interesting fact, this is why taxi drivers can easily pick up women, because just by someone sitting next to them and being enclosed in a space, it generates a kind of libido. In certain methods, online counseling is particularly recommended. One of them is meditation or imagination. In meditation, a particularly good focal point occurs because at this time, we know that a high degree of relaxation is necessary at such times. In my experience, most clients find it easier to relax this way because they are somewhat anxious. And it's easier if there isn't someone sitting in front of them whom they think is watching them while they close their eyes. Which is naturally true, because who else would they be watching if not them? So for meditation, I specifically recommend that it be done online or over the phone. Couples therapy. Conflict resolution. Anyone who has experienced what it's like when a couple starts arguing during a counseling session knows that it's better to avoid this. In an online couples consultation, the chance of them getting into a nasty fight or argument is smaller. In person, it's much higher. Perhaps this video world prompts people to behave differently than when they are present in person. Now let's look at the counter-arguments, which are the cons of online counseling from the client's perspective. For those with agoraphobia or travel phobias, contrary to the previous point, if the client travels, it might actually be beneficial for them. So now I'm contradicting myself because there can be two sides to the coin. For a client who has difficulty going out, such as someone suffering from agoraphobia, making the effort to visit their beloved psychologist, sexologist, or counselor can already be a great help. They go there, at least there, if nowhere else. This is obviously not something they get during an online consultation. So for those with agoraphobia or social phobia, this can be an advantage. For those with paranoia, a personal meeting can be useful if the client is paranoid or at least fears being eavesdropped on. When I met with such a client, I suggested that they look into which platforms like Skype, Zoom, Hangouts, etc. are being eavesdropped on and choose the one that is the least susceptible to eavesdropping. Many people are extremely afraid of phone tapping. If someone is a famous person, they will likely require a personal consultation. I think that if someone is not a celebrity, politician, or well-known person, etc., then the chances of being listened to are relatively small. The life of an average person is less interesting, at most, for the neighbors. Of course, they might still think that way. If a personal meeting with them is not possible, I recommend using Telegram for reassurance, as it cannot be eavesdropped on, or using Tor, or call from a public phone booth, or have the helper call from a public phone booth. We are still discussing the counter-arguments, but now from the therapist's perspective. Small details can be better noticed in person, not over Skype or phone, because even if we see someone on camera, it's never the same as in real life. People always appear a bit different on camera. In person, it's easier to map out and notice both resources and shortcomings. Physical appearance always provides additional information. In person, you can avoid technical glitches. The disadvantage of online counseling is the choppy or poor connection. In such cases, I usually suggest turning off the camera, sitting closer to the Wi-Fi, or connecting via cable instead of Wi-Fi. Obviously, such a problem doesn't occur in person. At most, the chair leg breaks from too much rocking. For certain therapies and methods, it can also be more advantageous to work in person, for example, in therapies that require equipment. I also tend to use a lot of objects, among other things. The client can personify people they have issues with, but this can't be done during an online consultation, although I have figured out how it can be done. But instead of my own objects, we need to use the objects available in the client's home. In situational games, as well as I demonstrated earlier with Lajos, it was easy in person. I don't know how it would have been online. When drawing, well, here at the university, if the client has to draw and present the drawing, it might be that something is not noticed on camera that we would notice in person. With methods that require movement, like dance therapy, it would probably be quite difficult to conduct it this way. I teach tone exercises, both Western and Eastern tantric tone exercises. In the end, there hasn't been an issue with this during video calls. I demonstrate, the student imitates, and I check if they are doing it correctly. But obviously, it would be much easier to correct any mistakes in person. Modality theory. For mild porn addiction, sex education and cognitive behavioral therapy are recommended. They respond well to this. By the way, there is no such thing as a mild addiction, but I still use this term. I consider those to be mild addicts who can stop quickly and easily. So, I don't consider a client to be an easy case based on their history, but rather based on the withdrawal phase. There are actually many who can quit very easily. Do they prefer zero tolerance or drastic reduction? For severe porn addiction, I recommend analysis instead. Why? Because although they appreciate the advice, they are unable or unwilling to do homework. They lack the discipline and perseverance or simply have weak willpower, which is further weakened by watching porn. However, it's not only the severity of the condition that determines which method is useful, but also the personality type. For example, there are those for whom only analysis is effective. One such type is someone who doesn't like being told what to do, like a leader, though they don't necessarily have to be a leader, as there are people like this in general. In cases of more severe porn addiction, with personality types that are difficult and slow to develop, and in porn addicts whose gray matter and white matter have already been significantly damaged, and attention, concentration, disturbance, brain fog. They mostly need ventilation and listening. Task-focused counseling and cognitive behavioral therapy are not always effective for them, although there are exceptions. They need brain regenerating methods instead, such as mindfulness. But very rarely the exception, because although they could always achieve outstanding sexual performance at work, despite masturbating 10-15 times a day, and thus also during collaboration. The methodology also includes complete tolerance towards what is heard and not believing in the client's fantasy world. Perhaps this should not have been necessary. My method also includes spatial communication. I cannot present this at the conference, but I wrote about it over 5 pages in my book. I believe over 5 pages. Question bomb. During a consultation, I might ask up to 30 questions, and very quickly in a particularly dynamic way, so that they have to open up. This is very necessary for reserved people. Relaxation, stress relief. It's needed for those who are severely or moderately affected. Sometimes even for those with milder dependencies, such consultations are needed. I like to teach calming techniques that they need to practice at home. In summary, I am definitely an advocate of online or phone consultations. I don't see any disadvantage, Mature, in conducting septological counseling online. Thank you for your attention.